The signal appeared on a quiet Tuesday morning at the Arecibo Morrison Array in Chile. Dr. Elena Santos wasn't supposed to be at her station. She pulled a double shift because her colleague had called in sick. As she stared at the regular pulses appearing on her monitor, her hands trembled while reaching for her phone. "Director Chen, you need to see this." Within hours, observatories worldwide confirmed what Elena had discovered: a signal of clearly artificial origin, approaching from the direction of the Carina Nebula. The pattern was too precise, too structured to be natural. After millennia of searching the stars, humanity had finally received its answer. We were not alone. The signal grew stronger over the next 3 months. Earth's governments united with unprecedented speed, forming the United Earth Council. Military forces were placed on high alert, but kept discreet to avoid projecting hostility. When the first ships appeared in high orbit, they were nothing like humanity had imagined. The vessels of the Nexus Confederation defied conventional physics. They seemed to phase in and out of reality, their hull compositions shifting between solid matter and pure energy. Their message was broadcast simultaneously to every communication device on Earth. "We come in peace and partnership." Admiral Sarah Chen, now heading Earth's First Contact Protocol, stood before the United Earth Council. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours," she reported, "but they're offering to share it. They claim their civilization is built on the principle of uplifting promising species." The Nexus representatives, appearing as shimmering humanoid forms of pure energy, spoke of galactic trade routes, faster-than-light travel, and the creation of Dyson spheres. Earth scientists worked alongside them, learning the fundamentals of their technology. For 6 months, it seemed humanity had entered a golden age. Dr. Marcus Wong was the first to notice something was wrong. While studying the Nexus quantum communication systems, he detected anomalous patterns in their transmissions. Hidden beneath the obvious signals were complex data streams, coordinates, tactical assessments, and most worryingly, detailed analyses of Earth's defensive capabilities. Before he could alert the Council, the Nexus struck. Their energy forms weren't just technological achievements. They were weapons. In synchronized attacks across the globe, the alien representatives transformed into burning columns of plasma, incinerating government centers and military installations. The orbiting ships unleashed weapons that turned Earth's own atmosphere into a conductor for their energy weapons. But in their arrogance, the Nexus made a crucial mistake. They assumed humanity's primitive technology meant primitive minds. They didn't realize that Dr. Wong had already shared his discoveries through a hidden network of quantum-encrypted channels. As cities burned and governments fell, resistance cells activated worldwide. And deep beneath the Atacama Desert, in a facility known as Project Helios, Elena Santos made a discovery that would change everything. Their energy forms, she explained to the surviving military leadership, they're not just technology. They're a manifestation of consciousness itself, and human consciousness has something they've never seen before. Admiral Chen, her uniform still covered in ash from barely escaping Washington, studied the neural scanning data. "How soon can we weaponize this?" Elena's eyes gleamed with determination. "We already have. They think they're fighting primitive beings who barely understand quantum mechanics. They don't realize we've spent centuries exploring our own consciousness through meditation, dreams, and altered states. We don't need their technology to enter the energy state. We just need to unlock what's already inside us." As the Nexus Confederation celebrated their easy victory, they didn't notice the strange readings beginning to appear in their quantum sensors. They didn't recognize the significance of the human prisoners whose brainwave patterns were shifting in impossible ways. And they certainly didn't expect what happened when Elena Santos activated the Helios device, connecting the consciousness of every surviving human being into a singular quantum network. The war for Earth was about to enter its second phase, and humanity was about to show the galaxy why you should never underestimate a species that had spent its entire history dreaming of the stars. The tunnels beneath the Atacama Desert buzzed with frenetic energy. 3 months had passed since the Nexus betrayal, and Project Helios had transformed from a research facility into humanity's last best hope. Dr. Elena Santos hadn't slept in 36 hours, but the readings on her holographic display kept her wide awake. "Look at this," she gestured to Admiral Chen, who had made the facility her makeshift command center. The display showed two neural patterns. One, the sharp geometric structure of a Nexus energy being. The other, the complex, almost chaotic pattern of a human mind. Their consciousness is perfectly ordered, engineered over centuries to interface with their technology. But ours is a mess, Chen observed, studying the intricate swirls and branches of the human neural pattern. Elena smiled. "Exactly. And that's our advantage." The Nexus spent generations removing what they saw as inefficiencies from their consciousness. They eliminated dreams, abstract thought, even imagination itself. They're powerful, but predictable. We're chaos theory given form. In the chambers below, the first volunteers were already training with the prototype neural interfaces. Lieutenant Maya Patil floated in a sensory deprivation tank, her mind connected to the quantum network. On the monitoring screens, her consciousness flickered between material and energy states. "They're using brute force to achieve their transformations," Dr. Wong explained, monitoring Maya's vital signs. "Massive amounts of energy to force consciousness into a quantum state. We're learning to slip between the cracks of reality instead." The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Among the refugees who'd made it to the facility was Dr. James Chen, a professor of comparative mythology who'd spent his career studying altered states of consciousness in ancient cultures. His insights proved invaluable in helping the volunteers navigate the quantum realm. "Every culture in human history has stories about transcending the physical form," he explained during a briefing. "Shamanic journeys, astral projection, enlightenment. We've been practicing for this moment for thousands of years. We just didn't know it." The Nexus continued their systematic conquest of Earth's surface, oblivious to the revolution brewing beneath their feet. Their energy weapons had rendered most conventional military resistance futile, and their quantum sensors could detect any significant concentration of technology, but they couldn't detect what they didn't know to look for. Lieutenant Patel made the first successful transition during a test gone wrong. When the power failed during a neural interface session, instead of being disconnected, she found herself fully conscious in an energy state. For 3 minutes, she existed as pure consciousness, able to perceive quantum fields directly. "It's not like their transformation at all," she reported after returning to physical form. "They force their way through, like a bullet through water. But we can flow, like becoming part of the current itself. And there's something else. I could sense them, but they couldn't sense me. Their ordered consciousness has blind spots." Admiral Chen immediately recognized the tactical implications. "We can move through their defenses unseen, but we need more than just reconnaissance. We need a way to fight back." Elena had already anticipated this. She unveiled the next phase of Project Helios, the Quantum Mirror Protocol. Their consciousness is like a perfect crystal, beautiful but rigid. When we enter an energy state, our chaotic patterns create interference. With enough trained individuals, we can disrupt their forms entirely. The first test of the protocol exceeded all expectations. A small team of volunteers, led by Maya, managed to destabilize a Nexus patrol unit, forcing them back to physical form. The aliens' confusion was evident. Their sensors detected nothing until the moment of disruption. But time was running out. The Nexus had detected unusual energy fluctuations in the Atacama region and were preparing a massive sweep of the area. Project Helios needed to scale up quickly, training hundreds of volunteers in techniques that usually took years to master. Dr. James Chen proposed a radical solution. The quantum network doesn't just connect us to the energy state, it connects us to each other. We don't need to train everyone individually. We need to share consciousness itself. Elena and her team worked around the clock, modifying the neural interface to allow for direct experience sharing. The risks were enormous. A failure could burn out hundreds of minds simultaneously. But as Admiral Chen reminded them, the Nexus will reach us in 10 days. We're out of better options. As the facility prepared for the largest consciousness transfer in human history, Alina made one final modification to the Helios device. The Nexus thinks consciousness is something to be controlled, constrained, perfected, she told Admiral Chen. We're about to show them what consciousness can do when it's set free. Above them, the Nexus forces gathered for their final sweep of the region, their energy forms blazing against the desert sky. They had no way of knowing they were about to face something their perfect, ordered minds couldn't comprehend, the full, unleashed power of human consciousness with all its chaos, creativity, and dreams. Dawn broke over the Atacama Desert as 300 volunteers lay in neural interface chambers throughout the Project Helios facility. Lieutenant Maya Patel stood before them, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. What we're about to attempt has never been done before. We're not just linking minds. We're about to create something entirely new. The Nexus forces were less than 24 hours away. Their energy forms had already begun preliminary sweeps of the region, their ordered consciousness searching for any sign of human resistance. They detected nothing unusual about the quantum fluctuations emanating from the desert. Such chaos was typical of Earth's unstable tectonics. In the command center, Dr. Elena Santos initiated the Helios device's final sequence. Neural synchronization beginning, she announced, watching as hundreds of consciousness patterns began to align on her displays. Remember, don't fight the chaos. Let it flow naturally. The first stage of consciousness sharing hit like a tidal wave. Memories, emotions, and thoughts cascaded through the quantum network. Many volunteers gasped as their individual awareness expanded, connecting with hundreds of others. But they had trained for this, practicing techniques drawn from centuries of meditation and lucid dreaming. Phase 2, Elena commanded. Begin energy state transition. This was the moment of greatest risk. One consciousness transitioning to energy form was difficult enough. 300 attempting it simultaneously could tear reality apart, or burn out every mind connected to the network. But they had no choice. The Nexus were coming, and humanity needed its miracle. The transition began slowly, then accelerated. On quantum sensors, it appeared as a rising tide of chaos, human consciousness flowing into the space between spaces. The Nexus patrol units detected the surge too late. By the time they realized something was wrong, they were surrounded by a storm of human consciousness. Lieutenant Patil led the first strike. In energy form, her consciousness joined with dozens of others, their chaos patterns creating interference that shattered the perfect crystalline structure of Nexus minds. The aliens had never encountered anything like it. Their ordered consciousness had no defense against the creative entropy of human thought. Multiple Nexus units destabilized, Admiral Chen reported, watching through quantum imaging. They're being forced back to physical form. Launch Phase 2. The second wave of human consciousness swept outward, targeting the Nexus command and control networks. The aliens had built their entire civilization on the principle of perfect order, their quantum communications relying on precisely aligned conscious states. The introduction of human chaos cascaded through their systems like a virus. But the Nexus weren't defenseless. Their energy weapons began firing wildly, trying to disrupt the human consciousness cloud. Several volunteers were forced back to physical form, their minds stressed but intact. The aliens began adapting, attempting to modify their conscious patterns to resist the chaos. That's when Elena activated the final stage of Operation Mindstorm. Release the dreamers, she ordered. 100 additional volunteers, who had been in deep meditative states, joined the quantum network. But unlike the others, they weren't trying to maintain coherent thought. Instead, they brought the full chaos of human dreams into the energy state, imagination unleashed in its purest form. The effect was devastating. The Nexus consciousness patterns, evolved over centuries to eliminate such disorder, began to fracture. Their energy forms destabilized, unable to maintain coherence in the face of pure human creativity. For the first time in their history, the Nexus felt something alien to their perfect minds: doubt. "They're retreating," Admiral Chen announced, watching the quantum sensors. "Their entire attack force is falling back to high orbit." But victory had come at a cost. The volunteers were exhausted, their minds strained from maintaining such complex conscious states. As they returned to physical form, many collapsed, requiring immediate medical attention. Yet even as they recovered, they shared a common experience. For the first time, they had felt the true potential of human consciousness. In the aftermath, Alina and her team analyzed the data from the battle. What they found astonished them. The human consciousness cloud hadn't just disrupted the Nexus. It had begun evolving, developing new patterns that neither human nor alien had seen before. "We didn't just create a weapon," Alina explained to Admiral Chen. "We may have stumbled upon the next stage of human evolution." Above them, the Nexus fleet regrouped, their perfect minds struggling to comprehend their defeat. They had encountered something that defied their understanding of consciousness itself. And as humanity prepared for the next phase of the war, a new question emerged: what else might human consciousness be capable of? In bunkers and hidden facilities around the world, more volunteers began their training. The quantum network expanded, connecting more minds to the growing consciousness cloud. Humanity had found its weapon, but they had also discovered something far more important: a new way of existing that transcended the physical form. The war for Earth was far from over, but for the first time since the Nexus betrayal, hope burned brighter than fear. In the space between spaces, human consciousness continued to evolve, driven by the very chaos that the Nexus had sought to eliminate from their own minds. The success of Operation Mindstorm had changed everything. Within weeks, the quantum network had spread across continents, linking resistance cells worldwide. Each new mind that joined brought unique patterns of chaos, strengthening the collective consciousness that now haunted the Nexus perfect order. On the outskirts of what was once Singapore, Dr. Marcus Wong led a team of consciousness raiders against a Nexus processing facility. Their minds shifted seamlessly between physical and energy states, using the chaos patterns developed in the Atacama to disrupt alien operations. But this time, something was different. "They're trying to adapt," he reported to Project Helios. "The Nexus are attempting to introduce controlled variants into their consciousness patterns. They're trying to mimic our chaos." Admiral Chen studied the quantum readings from resistance cells worldwide. The Nexus attempts at adaptation were causing unprecedented disruptions in their own networks. "They don't understand," she realized. "You can't engineer chaos. You can't control creativity. They're trying to solve this like a mathematics problem." In orbit, the Nexus fleet had withdrawn to defensive positions. Their energy weapons, once devastating against physical targets, proved nearly useless against humanity's consciousness cloud. More concerning for the aliens was the effect prolonged exposure to human thought patterns was having on their own minds. Dr. Alina Santos noticed it first in the quantum readings. "Look at these patterns," she showed Admiral Chen. "Some of the Nexus are beginning to exhibit spontaneous irregularities in their consciousness. They're not just mimicking chaos, they're beginning to dream." The implications were staggering. The Nexus had spent generations engineering such capabilities out of their species, viewing them as evolutionary holdovers that impeded perfect order. Now, contact with human consciousness was reawakening these dormant patterns. Lieutenant Maya Patel made the breakthrough during a raid on a Nexus command node. Instead of attacking their consciousness directly, she attempted communication in the energy state. What she discovered shook the fundamental assumptions of both species. "They're afraid," she reported after returning to physical form. "Not just of losing. They're afraid of what we're awakening in them. Their society is built on the suppression of everything we represent. Imagination, creativity, dreams. They consider these things diseases of consciousness." The Nexus High Command responded to this crisis with brutal efficiency, attempting to isolate any of their kind who showed signs of consciousness contamination. But they couldn't quarantine an idea. More and more Nexus began experiencing something they had no context for: doubt about the perfection of their order. Humanity pressed this advantage, but not in the way the Nexus expected. Instead of purely military strikes, the Resistance began sharing human experiences through the quantum network. Art, music, poetry. The full spectrum of human creativity broadcast directly into the space between spaces. The effect was profound. Young Nexus, whose consciousness patterns were less rigidly structured, began exhibiting signs of independent thought. Some even attempted to make contact with human resistance cells, seeking to understand the chaos that was transforming their minds. Dr. James Chen, working with a group of former Nexus, made a startling discovery. Their quest for perfect order didn't just eliminate creativity, he explained. It cut them off from portions of quantum reality itself. They've been operating with a deliberately limited consciousness, blind to entire dimensions of existence. In their orbital strongholds, the Nexus leadership faced a crisis unprecedented in their history. Their attempts to contain the spread of human consciousness patterns had failed. Worse, the very weapons they had used to subdue countless species were becoming unreliable as their own consciousness evolved beyond their control. Admiral Chen recognized the opportunity this presented. They're vulnerable, she told the Unified Resistance Command. Not just tactically. Their entire civilization is facing an existential crisis. But we need to move fast before they do something desperate. The Resistance launched Operation Dreamweaver, their most ambitious effort yet. Using the expanded quantum network, they began a coordinated global push, not just to drive the Nexus from Earth, but to force them to confront the full implications of what they had awakened. As human consciousness clouds surrounded Nexus strongholds worldwide, Alina made a final modification to the quantum network. We're not just fighting for survival anymore, she told her team. We're fighting for the right to dream, to imagine, to evolve. And maybe we're fighting for their right to remember how to dream too. The stage was set for the final phase of the war. But this conflict would not be decided by weapons or tactics. It would be decided by the most fundamental question both species now faced. What is consciousness meant to be? As humanity prepared to answer this question, the very fabric of reality waited to see what patterns would emerge from the chaos. The quantum storms raged across Earth's orbit, consciousness battling consciousness in the space between spaces. The Nexus leadership, facing the collapse of their perfect order, had launched a desperate final offensive. Their remaining fleet had initiated what they called the Unity Protocol, an attempt to forcibly synchronize all consciousness, human and Nexus alike, into their pattern of absolute order. Dr. Elena Santos stood in the heart of Project Helios, watching the quantum readings with a mixture of awe and terror. They're trying to rewrite the fundamental patterns of consciousness itself, she explained to Admiral Chen. If they succeed, they'll eliminate not just human creativity, but the very possibility of chaos in conscious thought. But the Nexus had made a fatal miscalculation. Their Unity Protocol, designed to impose order, instead created a connection between all conscious minds involved in the battle. Through this link, humanity didn't just resist, they shared. Every dream, every story, every act of imagination flowed through the quantum network, touching minds that had forgotten how to dream. Lieutenant Maya Patel led the first counterattack, not with weapons, but with memories. The experience of watching a sunset, the taste of rain, the sound of laughter. Simple human moments, broadcast through the quantum field, began to awaken something long dormant in the Nexus consciousness. They're remembering, Dr. James Chen reported, monitoring the quantum patterns. Not just their own suppressed capabilities, they're accessing genetic memories from before their species chose the path of perfect order. They're remembering what it meant to be free. The effect cascaded through the Nexus fleet. Young warriors, their consciousness patterns still flexible, were the first to break from the Unity Protocol. Then entire ships began dropping out of formation as their crews experienced something they had never known: choice. But the Nexus High Command wouldn't surrender their vision of perfect order without a final gambit. They initiated the Void Protocol, attempting to create a quantum singularity that would consume both fleets, taking their secret of consciousness manipulation with them into oblivion. Dr. Marcus Wong recognized the pattern first. "They're not just attacking us," he warned. "They're trying to tear a hole in consciousness itself. If they succeed, they'll damage the very fabric of quantum reality." This was the moment humanity had been preparing for, though they hadn't known it. All the chaos, creativity, and dreaming that made human consciousness unique had led to this point. Elena activated the final phase of the quantum network, linking every human mind on Earth into a single vast pattern of organized chaos. "We don't need to fight the singularity," she told Admiral Chen. "We need to dream through it." The human consciousness cloud expanded, not fighting the void, but embracing it. Dreams, hopes, fears, and imagination poured into the quantum tear, not trying to close it, but transforming it. The singularity became a canvas for human creativity, its destructive potential reshaped into something entirely new. In that moment, both species witnessed something unprecedented in the history of consciousness. The void became a bridge, not between physical spaces, but between ways of being. Through it, the Nexus experienced the full spectrum of consciousness they had denied themselves for so long, while humanity glimpsed the profound depths of order that lay beneath their chaos. The battle ended not with victory or defeat, but with understanding. The Nexus fleet, its crews forever changed by their encounter with human consciousness, withdrew from Earth's orbit. But they left behind something more valuable than technology. They left the beginning of a dialogue between two fundamentally different ways of experiencing reality. In the aftermath, Earth began to rebuild. The quantum network remained, though transformed. Humanity had learned to balance their chaos with elements of Nexus order, creating new forms of consciousness that neither species had imagined possible. Some humans chose to explore the energy state permanently, becoming pioneers in a new frontier of existence. The Nexus, too, were transformed. Their civilization, built on the principle of perfect order, began a painful but necessary evolution. Young Nexus came to Earth to learn the art of dreaming, while human consciousness experts helped their species remember how to imagine. Dr. Elena Santos, standing on the observation deck of humanity's first consciousness-powered starship, reflected on how far they had come. "We thought we were fighting for survival," she told her crew, "a mixture of humans and reformed Nexus. But we were really fighting for the right to choose who we become." The ship's quantum drive hummed with the combined power of ordered and chaotic consciousness, ready to carry them into the unknown. Above them, the stars beckoned, promising new frontiers not just in space, but in the evolution of consciousness itself. Humanity had not just survived their trial by fire. They had helped reshape the very nature of existence. As their ship prepared to jump into the quantum void, Elena smiled, knowing that the greatest adventures still lay ahead. In the space between order and chaos, between matter and energy, between dream and reality, a new chapter in the story of consciousness was about to begin.